Grace's hands were shaking as she tried to keep the tray of pricey wine bottles steady. Every sound in the restaurant had died down, except for the heartbreaking cries of a little boy. She looked over at the private corner booth where the servers had been told not to go near. The kid's crying got louder and more desperate, and she watched as the man holding him, who was devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit, looked more lost than anyone with that much power should. Their eyes locked across the crowded room. His eyes were like dark amber storms, exhausted and pleading. Before her manager could stop her, Grace was already walking toward the table she wasn't supposed to approach. She didn't know that the man was Gabriel Russo, New York's most dangerous mafia boss. All she knew was that no kid should be crying like that. If you want to find out how this story started and what happened after this, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Each view helps us bring you more stories like this one. The grease stains on Grace's uniform never came out, no matter how hard she scrubbed. She'd worked the morning shift at the diner in Brooklyn, hurried home to shower, and was now standing in the bathroom at Bellissimo, Manhattan's fanciest Italian restaurant, trying to look presentable for her evening shift. But her reflection showed the truth she tried to hide. She looked tired, with shadows under her green eyes. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it gave her a headache. She was only 25, but she felt ancient. Grace, table 6 needs their wine. Marco, the head server, snapped his fingers at her. She grabbed the tray and walked through the elegant dining room. The restaurant was filled with old-world luxury, with crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and the strong smell of truffles and money. She didn't fit in there, and she was reminded of that every day. The evening had been crazy busy since 6. Politicians, celebrities, people with watches that cost more than she made in a year. Grace moved between the tables with practiced skill, smiling politely while her feet were killing her. At 9:30, everything changed. The restaurant's huge oak doors opened, and silence spread through the room like a stone dropped in a calm lake. Grace looked up from pouring water and caught her breath. 6 men in black suits came in first, their eyes scanning the room like predators. Then he walked in. Grace had never seen anyone command a room just by walking into it. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that was perfectly styled, and a jawline that could cut glass. The charcoal suit fit him perfectly, like it had been tailored just for him, but it was his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. Amber like whiskey, beautiful and dangerous. A little boy was clinging to his neck, his face buried in the man's shoulder. "Modio," she heard Marco whisper next to her. "That's Gabriel Russo." Grace didn't know the name, but she recognized fear. Every server had pressed themselves against the walls. Even the owner, Giovanni, had come out of the kitchen, wringing his hands nervously. "Who is he?" Grace whispered. Marco looked at her like she was crazy. "Just stay away from that table. Don't go near him. Don't make eye contact. Understand?" But Grace was already looking at the child. The boy couldn't have been more than 3, wearing dress pants and a button-down shirt. When his father tried to put him down in the corner booth, the boy's whimpers turned into loud crying. "Luca," the man said. His voice was deep and commanding, even when he sounded desperate. "Papa needs you to be brave." The boy just cried harder. Grace's heart ached. She knew that sound. Grief, loss, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep inside. Gabriel Russo tried everything. He offered food, promised ice cream, pulled out a toy car from his pocket. Nothing worked. The child screamed like his world was ending. The other diners shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered. A few started asking for their checks. Grace watched the powerful man fall apart. He held his son close, whispering in Italian. His broad shoulders hunched over as if he was trying to protect the boy from the world. She'd taken 2 steps toward them before she realized what she was doing. "Grace!" Marco hissed. "Stop!" She didn't stop. The bodyguards moved instantly, blocking her way. One put a hand on her shoulder, not roughly, but firmly. "Miss, step back." "I just want to help," Grace said quietly, looking at the crying child. Gabriel Russo's voice cut through the noise. "Let her through." The bodyguards parted like the Red Sea. Grace walked slowly toward the table, her heart pounding. Up close, Gabriel Russo was even more impressive. The sharp angles of his face, the expensive cologne, the raw power that radiated from him like heat, but she focused on the child. "Hi there," she said softly, crouching down to the boy's level. "My name is Grace." Luca's sobs slowed down. He peeked at her from his father's shoulder, his little face red and streaked with tears. "That's a lot of big feelings for such a little guy." Grace went on, her voice gentle. "It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Please," Gabriel said, and the desperation in his voice broke something in her chest. "He's been like this for weeks. Nothing helps. The doctors say he's grieving, that he needs time." Grace's eyes met his and she saw it. The matching grief that he was barely holding back. Gabriel nodded almost without moving. Understanding washed over her. The expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion, the helplessness of a man who could control everything except his son's pain. "Luca," Grace said softly, "did you know that when my little brother was sad, we used to count stars together?" The crying had turned into hiccups. Luca was watching her now, his dark eyes curious despite the tears. "Your papa looks really strong. I bet he could hold you up high enough to touch the ceiling. Would you like that?" Luca's small hand let go of his father's shirt. "Grace," Gabriel breathed, his voice rough with what sounded like awe. She smiled at the boy. "But first you have to take a deep breath with me. Can you do that? Breathe in." She showed him, and Luca copied her. And out. The child's breathing became more steady. The crying stopped. The whole restaurant seemed to let out a sigh of relief. "There we go," Grace whispered. "You're so brave. He just needs a mother," she said quietly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Her eyes widened. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "You're right." Gabriel's voice was barely a whisper. He was staring at her like she'd worked a miracle. "He does." Luca reached for her. Grace caught her breath as the little boy's arms reached out to her. "Please," Gabriel said. Just that one word from a man who obviously never begged for anything. Just for a moment, she held out her arms. Luca practically jumped into them, his small body warm against her chest. He wrapped his arms around her neck and let out a shaky sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for months. Grace's eyes stung with unexpected tears. She rubbed small circles on his back, swaying gently. "It's okay, sweet boy." When she looked up, Gabriel was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Hunger, maybe, or hope. Something that made her skin flush and her heart race. "What's your full name?" he asked. "Grace Mitchell." "Grace Mitchell," he repeated, like he was trying to memorize it. "How did you do that?" "I just understood what he needed." "And what does he need?" She met his eyes. "To know someone sees his pain, that it's okay not to be okay." Something changed in Gabriel's expression. A crack in his armor. "I need you," he said simply. Grace's heart jumped. "What?" "To help with Luca. Name your price." "I'm not for sale." His lips twitched. "Everyone has a price, Grace Mitchell. I have 2 jobs already. I'll pay you more than both combined. Triple it." He leaned forward. "You have a gift with him. I've watched 17 nannies fail. You calmed him down in 60 seconds. I'm not a nanny. I'm a waitress. You're whatever you need to be to survive," he said. And the truth of that statement took her breath away. "I understand that. So understand this. My son needs you, and I protect what he needs." It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Luca had fallen asleep against her shoulder. Grace looked down at him and something clicked into place. "I'll think about it," she whispered. Gabriel pulled a card out of his jacket. A heavy black card with silver lettering. "Just a phone number. You have until tomorrow morning," he said. Their fingers brushed as she took the card, and electricity shot up her arm. "Don't make me wait too long, Bella." The Italian endearment sounded like silk on his tongue. "I'm not a patient man." He stood and gently took his sleeping son from her arms. For a moment, they formed a strange picture. The Mafia boss, the waitress, and the sleeping child between them. Then Gabriel Russo walked out of the restaurant, his guards falling into formation around him. Grace stood frozen, the black card burning in her pocket. She didn't know that by tomorrow, everything would change. She only knew that when Gabriel Russo looked at her, she felt seen for the first time in years. And God help her, she wanted to feel it again. Grace didn't sleep that night. She sat in her small studio apartment on the 4th floor with no elevator and a leaky ceiling, staring at the black card on her coffee table like it might explode. Her roommate, Christina, had Googled Gabriel Russo and spent an hour showing Grace everything they found. News articles about alleged criminal activity. Photos of him at charity galas, always alone since his wife died, and whispered rumors about the Russo family's control over New York's underworld. "You're insane if you call him," Christina said. "He's literally the Mafia, Grace. He's a father who needs help. He's a killer." Grace thought about the exhaustion in Gabriel's eyes, and the desperate love in the way he held his son. Maybe he's both. At 5 o'clock in the morning, she called the number. He answered on the first ring. "I knew you would call." Gabriel's voice was rough with sleep. "Can't sleep either? I have conditions, Gabriel." "I'm listening. I'll help with Luca 3 days a week. I keep my restaurant job the other days, and if at any point I think this isn't working, I walk away. No questions, no consequences." Silence stretched between them. When he spoke again, his voice had changed and was harder. "You think I'd hurt you for leaving? I don't know what you'd do. That's the problem." Another pause. Then, surprisingly, "Fair enough. I agree to your terms with one addition." "What?" "You don't walk away without giving me a reason. If something's wrong, you tell me. I can't fix what I don't understand." The vulnerability in that statement caught her off guard. "Okay. My driver will pick you up at 9 o'clock. Wear comfortable clothes. Luca likes to play outside." "Wait, today? You had all night to prepare, Grace. And I told you I'm not a patient man." The call ended. At exactly 9 o'clock, a black SUV pulled up outside her building. The driver opened the door without a word. The Russo estate was behind iron gates and tall walls. As they drove through, Grace's jaw dropped. The mansion spread across what must have been a whole city block. Stone facades, manicured gardens, and a fountain in the driveway that cost more than she'd make in her whole life. The front door opened before she could knock. An older woman with sharp eyes stood waiting. "Miss Mitchell, I'm Rosa, the house manager. Mr. Russo is expecting you." The inside was overwhelming. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. Grace followed Rosa through rooms that could swallow her entire apartment. They found Gabriel in a massive living room, sitting on the floor in his suit pants and a white dress shirt. Luca was having a complete meltdown, throwing toy cars across the room while screaming. Gabriel looked up as Grace came in, and the relief that crossed his face was almost painful to see. "Thank God," he breathed. "He's been like this since he woke up." Grace set down her bag and walked calmly into the chaos. She sat on the floor a few feet from Luca, not getting too close, just being there. "That looks like a lot of mad," she said casually. "Big, huge, enormous mad." Luca threw another car. "I get mad too sometimes," Grace went on. "Yesterday, I was so mad at my broken refrigerator that I wanted to throw it out the window, but it was too heavy, so I ate ice cream for dinner instead." Luca's screaming softened to angry huffs. "Your papa looks pretty worried. See his face? That's his worried face." The boy glanced at his father, then looked away quickly. "I bet if you used words instead of throwing, he'd understand better. Want to try?" Luca's little face twisted up. "Mama," he whispered. "Want mama?" Grace's heart shattered. She looked at Gabriel, who'd gone completely still. "I know, sweetheart," Grace said softly. "I bet you miss her so much it hurts." Luca nodded, tears running down his cheeks. "It's okay to miss her. It's okay to be sad and mad. Your mama loved you so much, didn't she?" Another nod. "She'd want you to be happy again someday. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Until then, your papa is here. He's pretty big and strong. Think he could give good hugs?" Luca looked at his father uncertainly. Gabriel's voice cracked. The best hugs, Piccolo. Promise. The boy launched himself at his father. Gabriel caught him, holding him tight. His eyes squeezed shut as Luca sobbed against his chest. Grace started to stand to give them some privacy, but Gabriel's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. "Stay," he said hoarsely. "Please." So, she stayed, watching a Mafia boss cry silently into his son's hair. After Luca fell asleep, Gabriel carried him upstairs. Grace waited until Rosa brought her tea. "He hasn't cried since she died," Rosa said quietly. "Mr. Russo, he's been like stone. But you made him feel again." When Gabriel came back, he changed into dark jeans and a black t-shirt that showed a bit of a tattoo on his neck. He looked younger like this, less scary. "I need a drink," he said. "Join me." Grace followed him to his study. Leather, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the city. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "I don't usually drink during the day," Grace said. "I don't usually fall apart in front of strangers." He drank deeply. "You're dangerous, Grace Mitchell. I'm the opposite of dangerous. That's what makes you so lethal. You slip past defenses without trying. You make people feel things they've buried. Maybe that's not a bad thing. In my world, feelings get you killed. Then maybe your world is wrong." Gabriel laughed. It was short, sharp, and surprised. "You have no idea what my world is like." "You're right. I don't. But I know Luca needs more than a father who's turned himself to stone." They stared at each other, the air thick with tension. Gabriel's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his whole attitude changed, his shoulders straightened, and his jaw tightened. "I need to handle something," he said. "Rosa will show you Luca's room, his schedule. I'll be back before dinner. Is everything okay?" His smile was sharp. "Just business, Bella. Nothing for you to worry about." But as he walked past her, he paused, his hand hovering near her cheek without quite touching. "Thank you for today. It's my job now." "No." His amber eyes bored into hers. "This stopped being just a job the moment you held my son." He left, taking 6 armed men with him, and Grace stood alone, wondering what kind of business needed that much firepower. She was learning that Gabriel Russo had 2 faces, the gentle father and the ruthless boss. And God help her, she was drawn to both. 3 weeks passed by quickly. Grace fell into a routine. 3 days with Luca, 3 days at the restaurant, and 1 day trying to remember what sleep felt like. The money Gabriel paid her was crazy. She'd already paid off her credit card debt and had enough left over to fix her car. But the money wasn't why she stayed. Luca was changing. He smiled now and even laughed. He'd started calling her Gracie in his sweet little voice. They had routines. Breakfast together, playing in the garden, reading stories before nap time. And Gabriel was the problem. He came home earlier now, joined them for dinner, and sat with them during bedtime stories, his big body squeezed into a child-sized chair. Grace caught him watching her all the time. When she danced with Luca to silly songs, when she wiped juice off his chin, and when she was just there in his space. The attraction between them had grown from a spark to a wildfire. "You're staring again," Grace said one evening after Luca had gone to sleep. They were in the garden, with the city lights glittering below them. "Can't help it." Gabriel's voice was rough. He'd had a few drinks, and his guard was down. "You've brought light back into this house. Into him, into me. Gabriel, do you know how long it's been since I felt anything besides rage and grief?" He moved closer. 8 months. Then you walked into that restaurant and looked at me like I was human. You are human. I'm a monster, Grace. I've done things that would make you run screaming. Then why haven't you told me what they are? He laughed darkly. Because I'm selfish. Because I want you to keep looking at me the way you do, like I'm worth saving. Everyone is worth saving. Careful, Bella. That optimism will get you hurt. His hand came up, finally touching her, his fingers tracing her cheekbone. Especially around me. Grace should have pulled away, should have remembered that this man was dangerous, that she was just an employee, that this was insane. Instead, She leaned into his touch. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Why? Because you run a criminal empire? Because people fear you? She met his eyes. I've seen you cut Luca's sandwich into dinosaur shapes. I've watched you panic over a scraped knee. I've heard you sing Italian lullabies off-key. That's who I'm afraid of. The man who makes me feel things I shouldn't. Gabriel's thumb brushed her lower lip, and she gasped. Grace, he warned. If you don't walk away right now, I'm not walking anywhere. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was months of grief and loneliness, and desperate need poured into the touch of lips and hands and breath. Grace melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair as he pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Gabriel pressed his forehead to hers. This is dangerous, he whispered. I know. You deserve better than me. I'll decide what I deserve. He pulled back to look at her, his amber eyes burning. You're under my protection now. You understand what that means? That you'll keep me safe? That I'll burn the world down if anyone touches you? You should have scared her. Instead, warmth bloomed in her chest. Glass shattered somewhere in the house. Shouts broke out. Gabriel's whole body went rigid. He shoved Grace behind him, and a gun appeared in his hand out of nowhere. Stay behind me, he commanded. This was the Mafia boss. Cold, deadly, efficient. They moved through the house, more shouting, and Rosa screaming. They burst into the foyer to find 5 men in black masks. One held Rosa with a knife to her throat. Another had Luca, the boy, screaming and reaching for his father. Grace's blood ran cold. Russo, one of the masked men said, We've been waiting. Let them go. Gabriel's voice was arctic. This is between us. No, this is about sending a message. You killed our boss's brother. Now we take what you love. The man holding Luca moved toward the door. Everything happened in slow motion. Gabriel raised his gun. The other masked men raised theirs. Rosa sobbed. Luca screamed. And Grace did the stupidest, bravest thing of her life. She ran toward Luca. No! Gabriel roared. Gunshots exploded through the foyer. Grace felt something hot tear across her arm, but she didn't stop. She reached Luca, ripping him from the masked man's grip, and threw herself to the floor, curling around the boy's body. More gunshots, shouting. The sound of footsteps as Gabriel's security team flooded the house. Then silence. Strong hands pulled Grace up. She held Luca tightly, feeling his heart pounding against hers. You're okay, baby. You're okay. I've got you, Grace. Gabriel's voice cracked. He was in front of her. Blood splattered across his face and shirt. Grace, you're bleeding. She looked down. Blood soaked her sleeve, but Luca was okay. That was all that mattered. I'm okay, she said. He's fine because of you. Gabriel's hands were shaking as he reached for both of them, pulling them against his chest. Madonna, Santa Grace, you could have been killed. So could he. But he couldn't finish. His arms tightened around them. You beautiful, stupid, brave woman. Paramedics arrived. Police came and went without asking any questions. Grace watched as a doctor bandaged her arm. Just a scratch, nothing serious. As Gabriel held Luca, whispering in Italian, his hands checking every inch of his son. When he finally set the boy down with Rosa, he turned to Grace with an expression that took her breath away. You saved my son. Anyone would have. No. He crossed to her in 3 steps. No one else would have. You put yourself between him and bullets. He kissed her again. Different this time, softer, deeper, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. I love you, he whispered against her lips. I know it's insane. I know it's too soon. But watching you almost die made me realize I love you. I'm terrified of it. But I love you. Grace's heart stopped, started again, and soared. That's terrifying, she breathed. I know. And insane. I know. And I love you too. His smile was blinding. That's even more terrifying. I know. They laughed, and it felt like relief, like joy, like coming home. Luca toddled over, grabbing both their hands. Gracie, stay. Grace looked at Gabriel. He looked at her. Always, they said together. The next morning, Grace woke up in a guest room, her arm properly bandaged, wearing borrowed silk pajamas, surrounded by luxury. She found Gabriel in his study on the phone, speaking quickly in Italian. When he saw her, his expression softened, and he ended the call immediately. You should be resting. I'm fine, Gabriel. We need to talk about last night. He poured coffee and handed her a cup. I've tripled security. No one will get close again. That's not what I mean. Those men, they came because of you, because of what you do. Yes. The simple admission hung between them. Grace sat down carefully. Tell me the truth. All of it. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was stripped of all pretense. My family has controlled organized crime in New York for 3 generations. I inherited the empire when I was just 23 years old, after my father was murdered. I've killed people, Grace. I've ordered deaths, broken laws that could land me in prison for life. He locked eyes with her, his gaze intense. I'm exactly what you fear. Criminal. A mobster. The monster everyone thinks I am. Grace absorbed this information, the weight of it settling on her shoulders. Luca's mother. How did she die? A flicker of pain crossed his face, a shadow darkening his eyes. Car bomb. It was meant for me. She was 8 months pregnant with our second child. They both. He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. I destroyed that rival family. Every single member. Jesus. Gabriel. This is my world. If you stay, his voice grew rough, laced with a warning. If you stay, you become a part of this. Luca already loves you. He turned away, unable to meet her gaze. I won't watch another woman I love die because of me. Grace stood up, moving closer to him. She gently forced him to look at her, her eyes filled with determination. Don't I get a choice in this? You don't understand the risk. His voice was laced with urgency, a desperate plea. Then explain it to me. Show me your world. Let me decide if I'm strong enough to handle it. Grace, I jumped in front of bullets for your son. You think I did that on impulse? I did it because I'm already in this, Gabriel. I fell in love with both of you, and I don't regret it for a second. So stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. His hands cupped her face, his forehead pressing against hers. You're the bravest person I've ever met, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Or the stupidest, she countered, a small smile playing on her lips. That, too, he admitted, a ghost of a smile flickering across his face. But it faded quickly, replaced by a serious expression. If you stay, there are rules. You don't go anywhere without security. You learn to shoot. You tell me everything. Any threats, anything unusual. Okay, she agreed, nodding slowly. I mean it, Grace. In my world, information keeps you alive. I understand, she assured him, her gaze unwavering. He hesitated, his eyes searching hers. You should know that other families will see you as a weakness. They'll see Luca as leverage. What you did last night will make you famous. Grace Mitchell, the waitress who took a bullet for Gabriel Russo's son. I didn't take a bullet, she corrected him. I got grazed. Don't minimize what you did, he said, his grip tightening slightly on her face. You're a hero. My hero. Luca's hero. And now you're also a target. The weight of that realization settled over her, heavy and suffocating. I'm still not leaving, she declared, her voice firm. Stubborn woman, he said, a hint of fondness in his tone. You love it, she teased, a playful glint in her eyes. I do, he admitted, a sigh escaping his lips. God help me, I do. Over the next week, Grace's life transformed completely. She quit her job at the restaurant, a decision made at Gabriel's insistence. You're safer here, he had said. She moved into the mansion. She started training with his security team, learning to defend herself in a world she never knew existed. She also learned about Gabriel's legitimate businesses. Real estate, restaurants, construction. Not everything he did was illegal. The man was a study in contradictions. Ruthless boss and gentle father, feared killer and generous philanthropist. You donate millions to children's hospitals, Grace remarked one evening, a hint of curiosity in her voice. Guilt money, he replied from where he was reading to Luca, his tone nonchalant. Or maybe you're not as bad as you think, she suggested, a hopeful note in her voice. Don't romanticize me, Bella. I'm still a monster who cries at Disney movies, she countered, a playful smile on her lips. Once, I cried once, he insisted, feigning offense. 3 times. I counted, Luca piped up, giggling. Gabriel shot Grace a mock glare that was completely undermined by his smile. These moments, domesticity mixed with danger, became her new normal. She also met the other families at a dinner Gabriel hosted. Grace found herself surrounded by Mafia wives who welcomed her warmly, their eyes filled with curiosity and a hint of admiration. We heard what you did, one woman said, her voice laced with respect. Protecting the child. Gabriel chose well. We're not, Grace started, unsure how to respond. Oh, honey, the woman laughed, shaking her head. That man looks at you like you hung the moon. Trust me, you're already his. That night, after everyone had left, Gabriel found Grace on the balcony, overwhelmed by the evening and the realization of her new life. Your world is nothing like I imagined, she said, turning to face him. Her expression a mix of disappointment and fascination. They all respect you, even fear you, but they also trust you. He smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. You see the best in everyone, he said softly. I see the truth, she countered, moving closer to him. You're a good man in impossible circumstances. You make it sound noble, he said, his voice laced with self-deprecation. It's not. Maybe not, but it's human, and that's enough for me. Gabriel pulled a small box from his pocket. Grace's breath caught in her throat. I know it's fast, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. I know this world is insane, and I'm asking you to dive into danger every day. But Grace, he opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring surrounded by emeralds. I don't want to waste another second. Life is too short, too fragile. Marry me. Be Luca's mother. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Grace's eyes filled with tears, her heart overflowing with love. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You didn't even think about it, he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. I've been thinking about it since the moment you kissed me, she admitted, her smile radiant. Yes, Gabriel. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and forever. I'll keep you safe, he whispered against her lips. I swear it. I know, she replied, her voice filled with confidence. But I'll also keep you safe. That's what partners do. Partners, he repeated, as if the word was new to him. I like that. They stood there wrapped in each other's arms, the city glittering below them, their future bright despite the shadows that lingered. Inside, Luca slept peacefully, finally healing, finally happy. And Grace realized that sometimes love didn't arrive quietly. Sometimes it exploded into your life in the form of a crying child and a desperate father. Sometimes the most dangerous choice was the one that saved you. 3 years later, Grace stood in the garden watching Luca, now 6 years old, play with his baby sister, Isabella. The little girl toddled after her brother, giggling as he made silly faces. Mama, watch this, Luca called, doing a cartwheel. Beautiful baby. Grace laughed, her heart swelling with love. She was Mama now, had been since the wedding 2 years ago. Strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind. Gabriel's chin rested on her shoulder, his hands settling protectively over her stomach where their 3rd child grew. Happy, he murmured, his voice filled with contentment. Impossibly so, even with the bodyguards and the danger. Especially with all that. She turned in his arms, her eyes filled with love. You kept your promise. You've kept us safe. Built us a family. You built it, Bella, he countered, his voice soft. I just provided the walls. You filled them with love. They'd created a life together. Messy, complicated, but undeniably theirs. Gabriel had even stepped back from the more dangerous aspects of his business, focusing on legitimate enterprises for his children. For her, he'd never be entirely clean. That wasn't how their world worked. But he was trying, and that meant everything. "I love you," Grace said, her voice filled with emotion. "My dangerous, wonderful man." "I love you more," he replied, kissing her softly. "My brave, stubborn, perfect wife." Luca ran over and crashed into their legs. Isabella followed, and Gabriel scooped them both up, making them squeal with laughter. Grace watched her family, her impossible, perfect family, and thought about that night in the restaurant when a little boy wouldn't stop crying. She'd walked toward danger without thinking. She'd said yes to love without hesitation, and it had given her everything. Sometimes the best stories begin with the bravest choice. Sometimes you have to step into the unknown to find your home. And sometimes a crying child leads you to exactly where you're meant to be. This story has come to an end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share with someone who also enjoys emotional stories. New stories coming soon. Until next time.